If you like this video, why not subscribe? Hey everybody, welcome back to the Frugal Filmmaker Q&A. That's the show where you send me your questions and I try to answer them. Your best chance of having your question read on this show is to send me an email at thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com. You can also comment below, down below in this video, or you can send me something on Twitter at Frugal Filmmaker. In my last video this past week, I did a review of a cheap light stand. It's a light stand I got for about $13 to $14. It was actually a pretty good light stand if you're using lightweight lights like those small LED lights or small tungsten lights or clamp lights or what have you. That's a good little stand for that. So if you're interested and need a light stand, you might want to check out that video review. Our first question today is from Thomas Lewis, who says, my wife wants to get a shop light for her crafting room. This is great because it can do double duty when I need extra lighting. Which would be best, halogen or LED lights? Now, I think you have to take into consideration here kind of your setup. Obviously, halogen lights will create more heat than LED lights. They also tend to be a little warmer, at least the ones I use, which are spotlights. If I want to throw a backlight on somebody, I just use one of these halogen spots, 75-watt spots. I just put them into a light fixture, point it at their back, and I give them a nice backlight or rim light. And I like those lights. They tend to skew more warm colors. So if you have some daylight balanced LEDs, for example, or 5000K LED lights, you might not want to go with halogens. I just think it depends on what you're trying to match. You say it might be good for extra lighting, so I would look at the lights you are already using, and if you need to add some extra light or that light that's going to be in the room, you probably want to just figure out, based on color temperature, which would match better, whether it's halogen or LED. I think you also need to take into consideration where this extra light is going to be, because if you're hanging it in a certain spot of the room, it could affect how your lighting setup looks when you actually use it. Placement is just as important as what type of light you're using. Okay, our next question comes from Chase Weeks, who says, could you make a motorized pan tilt head for a jib? Well, I could make one, I suppose. This sounds kind of out of my wheelhouse. It sounds kind of complex, and I don't really have a lot of experience with this type of a thing. But I know Polaroid makes one for about $45, and I'll give you a link below. They sell it on Amazon. And it just connects right to a standard tripod mount, and then you have a remote, infrared remote controlled pan tilt head. It's motorized, and you could use that. I don't think I could build one for cheaper than $45, and it kind of crosses that threshold of, you know, do I build a DIY version, which I might save a little bit of money, but it will come so close, especially after my labor costs, you know, if I were to calculate those, that it's going to exceed the $45 if I just went out and bought this one. So check out that link below and the reviews that go with it, and I think you might find what you need for your jib. All right, our next three questions come from comments from last week's Q&A, and the first one's from William Perry, who says, I have a Sony A5100 for video, which is similar to my camera, the NEX5N. No external mic in or audio out, just like mine. I plan to use a Tascam mixer recorder for audio. Will the on-camera mics make a good enough audio track to sync with the Tascam audio later? Do sample rates have to match to get good clapper sync? How can I tell what the camera audio sample rate is? Well, first off, it's really easy to figure out what your camera's on-camera mic's audio sampling rate is, because you can just record something with your camera and then take that file, at least in Windows, you can right-click on the file that it's created and then go into the Details tab, and you can see right there in front of you what the audio sampling rate is. And typically it's going to be this, 48 kilohertz. That's kind of normal. It's kind of the standard video audio recording setting. Do these sample rates have to match? Do you have to adjust your sample rate on your recorder to match what your camera is recording in order to get good sync? And the answer is, well, it depends. It probably wouldn't matter on short takes, but as soon as you start recording something long, it's going to matter. In fact, if those sample rates don't match up and you sync up those two tracks over time, if it's a long take again, you'll get audio drift. They'll drift out of sync. So it's always good to have those sampling rates matched, especially on long takes. It's just a good rule of thumb to do it anyway. And if you do have some audio that's recorded at the wrong sampling rate, you can always convert it to the proper sampling rate and then sync the two tracks. That can solve your problem. But it's always good to just make sure you know what you're doing from the very beginning, meaning you've already investigated what your audio sampling rate is on your camera, and then match it with your audio recorder, and then you'll be fine. Okay, the DIY camera guy says, last year I worked on a bunch of other people's projects. I hope to find more people that I would like to work with in the future, and I have. Unfortunately, my list of people that I never want to work with is growing faster than the star list. What do people do to get on your no-call list? Well, this is a really interesting question, because you know, especially when you're doing micro-budget stuff, you're always looking for volunteers to help, and you always bend over backwards for them. I hope anyway. I try to do that by feeding them well and giving them decent work hours and work environment so that they'll want to work for you again. However, there are always people that you come across that you work with that you don't want to work with again for whatever reason. And the main one that pops into my head was, I actually had a paying gig, and I was paying the person. It wasn't a lot, but you know, you're still paying somebody to show up prepared and ready. So I had an actor show up who hadn't memorized his lines and hadn't really looked at the script and hadn't decided on the character. Trying to direct him was really difficult because he didn't have his lines memorized, and I essentially had to take his performance that we kind of slogged through on set and fix it in post and make it work. And it did, and it was okay, but you know, after that I was like, well, this is not something I ever want to do again because it was really painful. So that was something right there. If someone isn't prepared to do what they're supposed to be doing, and they show up and they're not ready, especially on a paid gig. I mean, if this is volunteer, you have to be more forgiving because you're not compensating any of these people and they're doing you a big favor by being volunteers. But if they aren't volunteers and you're actually paying them, you expect more out of them, and they should expect more of you as well. So that's something that happened to me that I would definitely cross that person off. Okay, finally we have a one from Copy Imitation who says, so does your wife help out with your videos? Is she into filmmaking? Well, my wife does help out with my videos, mostly with the immense amount of support she gives me, because if she wasn't supportive of what I was doing, I would never be able to do any of this. We have kids, and she takes care of the kids when I can go out and shoot on weekends or whenever I have to do this, and she's very supportive. She is into filmmaking a little bit. I mean, she does take on a producer capacity. In the past, she's done that. And, you know, we met through our love of movies. That was one of the things I instantly was attracted to her, was because she had a top 10 list that she'd published. And it had some really interesting choices, and so I was drawn to her because of that, her unconventional picks. And so she's helped me a lot in the past, and she's helped me over and over with all of my projects, even though if she wasn't directly involved, as far as, you know, she's not a cinematographer, and she's not a writer, and she's not a gaffer or any of that. But she helps out in so many other ways that support me while I'm doing these things, that she might as well be any of those things because her role is just as important. So I'm very grateful for her and all of her hard work and dedication that she's given me, and I love her very much. So thanks, sweetie. Okay, that's all the questions this week. Again, if you have a question you want read on this show, please send it to me at thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com. That is the best chance you have to get your question read on the show. You can also make a comment below, or you can contact me via Twitter at frugalfilmmaker. So thanks for watching. I appreciate all your comments and support, for all of your views and minutes watched. I really appreciate it. Please keep it up. There'll be a new video this Thursday or Friday, and another Q&A on Monday. We'll see you then.